Virtually every aspect of our health is influenced by the health of our gut and the collection of microbes that live within us, known as the gut microbiome. These body residents are vital to our health and well-being and are influenced by many things, including what we eat, if we use antibiotics, how we are born, and how sterile we keep our environment, to name just a few. A healthy gut can prevent and heal much of what ails us in the 21st century, while a bad gut can lead to many health issues, including heart disease, obesity, and autoimmune diseases. Today, we are extremely lucky to have 3 local experts who will share their insights on the topic of gut health and why it is essential that we feed and nourish a healthy gut. Randi Heinold is the owner of Naturally Randi Kay, a platform that is dedicated to self-care and healing. She is a massage therapist trained in the Arvigo techniques, which is a therapy based on the ancient Mayan technique of abdominal massage. Dr. Fadel Nammour is a gastroenterologist and owner of Dakota Gastroenterology Clinic. In his practice, he treats a variety of digestive health issues and works to bring awareness of the importance of good gut health, as well as the gut-brain connection. And finally, Jordan Thornberg from Sweet Pro Feeds and ProBiotein is a company that's been developing feeding blends for human and animal nutrition for nearly 3 decades. His company recently launched a new product called the Microbiome Bar, which is a bar that features a unique blend of prebiotic fibers to feed the gut microbiome, and hopefully you all had a chance to add some of the ProBiotein into your oatmeal today to try that. So, without further ado, would you please join me in welcoming our 3 awesome speakers to the stage, Randi, Fadel, and Jordan.
Okay, hi. Oh, sure. So, today, I'm going to talk to you about belly rubs. Self-care for gut health, aka the importance of belly rubs, because that's what I do all day. Okay. So the problem. How many of you feel like this little munch over here in the blanket? Right? Okay. I'm going to talk to you about, before we talk about some solutions, maybe bring awareness to how we've been feeling, and especially in regards to the topic today. So, first of all, we're not doing so hot. Digestion issues. A lot of my clients, whether they come in for abdominal work or not, have a lot of digestive issues that we'll get into with other speakers. So it's very, very common. We also have mental health issues, and what we will also talk about later is the connection between mental health and the gut and digestion. And reportedly, 1 in 5 adults have a mental health issue, and that's just reported, and that's also not including our sweet young people. And a lot of research is showing that there is a little bit of increase each year, but more importantly, the people that have it are feeling it more intensely. It's becoming more of a intense issue. And then reproductive issues. That's what I work with a lot with my clients about. 1 in 10 women are being diagnosed with endometriosis. PCOS is a huge issue, painful cycles, irregular cycles, all sorts of things. That is actually growing at quite a rapid rate. So from here to here, we've got a lot going on just from what we're feeling. So let's talk about how we got this way. We have a more sedentary lifestyle. Our jobs are more of our jobs are at desks, and we sit when we commute, we sit when we eat, we sit when we're for most entertainment. We're just not moving as much. There's an increase of stress and life demands, whether that is from your job or family or from ourselves. A lot of us create a lot more demands and high expectations within ourselves. Poor body mechanics, so when we are at our desk, like this wonderful model here, how many of you are like this for hours on end, right? Not good. We've got a poor diet, and a lack of movement. So our bodies have evolved to move. We can do all this cool stuff, but yet we're like this most of the day. And lack of proper self-care. So when we're increasing our poor lifestyle choices and our stress, we're not doing a lot to counter that. So we're not tending to our needs on a daily basis. So I'm going to nerd out, not about cheese or coffee, but about muscles and organs. Just real quick, I want to give you a visual of what's happening in here, because we walk around disconnected from what's actually going on in our bodies, and we expect our bodies to just always be doing stuff properly. And so I want us to just get a visual of what's going on. We have our superficial muscles here with the abdomen. We've got our awesome like six-pack abs. And you've all got them, they're just maybe in the fridge a little bit. But we've got these awesome muscles that are moving us around. And these muscles are huge movers, and yet we don't really address them very often. And then we've got these back muscles, and these are on the inside, and they cradle our organs. And so we've got our cool psoas muscle that does this, and all sorts of wonderful things. But when these are tight and out of whack, it can influence the function of our organs as well. And then we've got our digestive system, so just take a look at that. We've got our intestines. We've got, one thing I want to point out is the diaphragm. Oh, on this back side. Oops. The diaphragm here, which comes up, it's got these little openings where our veins and arteries come out of. So if we're not breathing properly and this diaphragm isn't getting worked out, it's constricting proper nutrients getting to all of our organs. So it all like works together. I just invite you to look at an anatomy picture, and you're gonna learn a lot about your body. And more importantly, it gives you a why. Why do you need to care for it? We have all these shoulds, or that phrase, we're shoulding all over ourselves with healthy habits. But like, why do we need to do them? Well, knowing your anatomy gives you a very powerful reason. So underneath our digestive organs, we have our reproductive organs. So this is for a woman. We've got our uterus, and that's right over the bladder, and all sorts of stuff. So it's really beautiful and complex, and we probably don't think about that going on at a regular basis. But when it's not operating optimally, so think of a hose when it's kinked. Maybe a little bit of stuff can get out, but it's not going to be eliminating properly. So when we're sitting like this, when we're breathing poorly, when we're not moving our bodies, where everything's getting kind of crimped in there, and when things aren't eliminating properly, then we're going to have all that gobbledygook, that's the technical term, doctor, stuck in our bodies. So we want to be loosening up that hose and making sure that everything is moving and grooving. All right, so the solution, what can we do about it? There are some really wonderful, simple, effective lifestyle things that you can start doing today that, if done repetitively over time, will help you. So we've got, notice yourself, notice what's going on. That's a huge thing. Notice you have a body and that you exist. Improve your posture and body mechanics. Stay hydrated and eat slow and well. Move your body. Care for your muscles and your tissues through massage or chiropractic adjustments, yoga, working with other health professionals. Tend to this area and ask them to. And then practice gratitude and self-love. How many of you, when you think of this area of your body, is not that great, right? There's a lot of trauma here, there's a lot of judgment here. When you take a breath and practice self-love and how much this area does for you, it can shift your whole relationship with yourself. So I know I'm out of time, but I want to end with us. Here's some information. I have a podcast about self-care, Instagram stuff. I have a flyer with my information out on the table, but I want us to take a deep belly breath together, and you can check into yourself. So you can place your hand on your belly if you'd like. So nice. Close your eyes. And you want the chest muscles to relax. You want it to be right in the belly, so you're pressing your hand. When you inhale, that hand is coming out, and when you exhale, that hand is falling. It can feel a little challenging at first, and then just send a little love and gratitude to that area. Be gentle with any thoughts that are coming to you. Tune into your anatomy, tune into all that's going on in there. And just recognize that it's there, because it's only from that place that you can start to tune into what healing you really need and how you can move forward from this space. All right. How'd that feel? Belly breath can change your life, honestly. All right. Well, that's all I have for you. Now we'll move on to Fadel.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
This is a great crowd. I've already learned so much. Who would have thought 10,000 seeds of tomatoes? This is amazing. Just wait a little bit until you hear about the microorganism. So, I don't know the jingle, but I thought this is what my patients come to me for. Basically, everyone has experienced some of this at some point. It's when they become chronic that things don't work well. And the most important part is these other symptoms that happens. And with the other symptoms, they are symptoms that doesn't come from the organs itself, from the digestive organs. They come from something else. It's the sweating, the profuse sweating. It's the feeling tired, lack of concentration, always feeling no appetite. They don't want to do anything. And that made us think that maybe there's something else on top of these organs that are responsible for these symptoms and for the chronicity of these symptoms. That's what we call the gut feeling. And the gut feeling is something that we always say the gut knows before the brain has figured out. So there's always something in our feelings, in our gut, that makes us feel what is important for us to maintain our health. And this is the trademark for my clinic, to emphasize the importance of the gut for our well-being and prevention of diseases. Why we have the gut feeling? Because the gut can feel. And the gut can feel because there is a network of nerves inside our gut that is under the control of the central nervous system sometimes, but sometimes it can work independently, autonomously. So our nervous system is formed with the brain, the spinal cord, this is the central nervous system, and then we have the peripheral nervous system, which conveys the orders from our organs to our brain, and it's a two-way street, it goes both ways. And within the peripheral system, we have what we call the autonomous nervous system. The autonomous nervous system is divided into three parts: the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, and the enteric nervous system. And I'm going to be focusing on the enteric nervous system. As you can see, this is an illustration of the general organization of our GI tract. And within the GI tract, within our muscular layers, we have two plexus of nerves, the Meissner's and the Auerbach plexus, which regulate and control the bodily function, the absorption, the digestion, the motility of our gut. And that's why these are very important elements of our gut feeling. This nervous system has around 500 million neurons, 20 different type of neurons. It helps to move our gut, it helps to digest, it helps our endocrine system to secrete hormone and digestive enzymes. It also, and this is a key element, help store serotonin. And serotonin is well known to be an important part of our not only gut health, but also our mental health. 95% of the serotonin is within our gut. And on top of that, the immune system is in the submucosa. And the immune system in the gut is the most important organ of our immune defenses. What influences this nervous system, this enteric nervous system? As I mentioned, it is an autonomous system, network. It works on its own. But studies recently have shown that this nervous system can be affected by the bacteria inside our gut. And we have thousands of species of bacteria. We are more bacteria than human. There are 100 trillions of bacteria compared to only 10 trillion of human cells. Around 2 million genes of bacteria compared to 20,000 human genes. So some theories now think that we are only a vehicle for bacteria. Bacteria has been for billions of years and have used their host to be able to survive and multiply. And through those hosts, they are able to control not only the digestive, because bacteria help to digest food that we are unable to digest. The bacteria helps to strengthen our immune system. It helps to metabolize some medication, but also it helps behavioral. So it works on the brain itself. And there's different hypotheses how these bacteria will work. They all basically are related to products that the bacteria secretes, the short fatty acid chains. And through those short fatty acid chains, they can stimulate the vagus, the enteric nervous system, they can stimulate the brain directly, and they can stimulate our immune cells directly. So, in summary, what we eat is gonna shape who we are. And this is not a recent concept. This, the first time this was described was in 1826 by a French scientist. And at that time, they declared it based on their disease. Now we are declaring this based on multiple research. Yes, they are in vitro, in animals, and some in humans, but most of these research has a trend that this may be real, that this is gonna change the way we think about the human body, not as independent organs, but just as a whole that can be affected, especially by our nervous system. I had 5 minutes to go over through this, but I'm hoping that through the Q&A we will be able to have a more deep understanding. Thank you very much.
Thanks everyone for being here. My name is Jordan Thornberg. My dad, Bob Thornberg, was actually the one scheduled to be speaking today, but he is stuck in Dallas at the moment. His flight got delayed, so here I am. But as Megan was saying this morning, you know, she's a big cheese aficionado, so I'm feeling good about this. So, today I'd like to talk to you about fiber and where it's critically important and yet chronically missing in the Western diet. Whether it's due to the rise of processed foods or maybe a decrease in vegetables and other whole foods people are eating, people aren't getting enough fiber. And we're trying to bridge that gap between the amount of fiber that people are getting and what they should be getting. So I work for a company called Food First, and that name sort of implies food first, pharma second, as kind of a philosophy of it. You know, with modern advancements in healthcare and technologies, there are great steps forward in that field, but maybe there's almost too much of a reliance on that, and by that point it's almost too late sometimes. So if we trash our bodies with too much of that, where you know antibiotics can do a number on our guts and our immune systems, that we kind of pay a price for that. So if we can improve that going in instead of coming out, I don't know if that makes sense, but if we can improve that ahead of time, I think we'd be better served. So what we do is we make a fermented product called ProBiotein, which you may have had a chance to try outside. So it's a blend of wheat, flax, oats, and barley malt. And we grow yeast on that mixture. And through that fermentation process, we concentrate the proteins of the grains and we remove the starches. So we kind of basically give you the best parts of the grains. And we carefully dry that mixture down to a powder that you can either take mixed into a smoothie or your favorite juice, or even bake it into bread, or it's included as an ingredient in our microbiome bars, which we'll have outside later as well. So those come in 4 different flavors: peanutty cranberry, raz apple almond, choco cherry walnut, and sunny Saskatoon berry. So if you're familiar with June berries, like June berry pie is my favorite. That's kind of the Canadian name, and since we're from Walhalla, North Dakota, we're right up on that Canadian border, so we kind of favored that name instead of June berry. So when we get the right fiber, you know, there's insoluble fiber, which is what kind of helps provide bulk that keeps things moving, and you get the right nutrient exchange by taking things at the right speed. If things are going through you too fast or too slowly, the vitamins and minerals aren't having the proper amount of time to best be utilized by your system. So if we can improve that, that's a plus. So in addition to insoluble fiber, we've also got soluble fiber, and in particular prebiotic fiber, and even more in particular fermented prebiotic fiber. So that's what we get with this ProBiotein. So I'd like to do a little demonstration here. And I'm not gonna dump it in my hands and throw it in the air like LeBron James, but I'll just take a little, thank you. Oh, perfect. Gastroenterologist and microphone holding specialist. So you're gonna take, this is kind of small, but you're gonna want about a tablespoon a day. So how many folks like orange juice? Good, good. Apple juice? Excellent. Chocolate milk? It's a good fit, either one. All right, so let's go with chocolate milk. That's kind of a nice fit. So you're gonna want to fill it about half full. And my dad had the special little mixer with him, so I had to borrow my sister's. So hopefully this works. It's actually a little frother. So it looks like that. And I think it's a little low on battery, but you get a little bit of a mix going on. And I think that battery is maybe a little lower than I was expecting. But regardless, you're gonna get a tasty treat. So, with that, we hope to help you stay or keep a gut above the rest. So, thank you.
I was not expecting that. That was a fun little addition this morning.
Awesome. Thank you guys all so much for sharing those fabulous insights on gut health. Could I borrow the clicker from somebody? Thank you so much. All right. So, a lot of information. We know that asking them each to only speak for 5 minutes, they have to go real high level on stuff. So now is your chance to ask some more questions. If they ask or put something out there that you're like, I want to know more about that, this is your opportunity. So please raise your hand and we'll just go through the crowd. Deb.
So, do you have a gluten-free type product for your ProBiotein?
That's a great question. We can't categorize it as gluten-free, but you know, the first ingredient you see on there is wheat, and where a lot of red flags go up in people's minds and they think, oh, I just can't have that. But due to that fermentation process, a lot of the negative aspects of gluten are kind of mitigated by that fermentation. So the way I have understood it is gluten is comprised of when you get glutenin and gliadin, and they combine to form gluten. And I think through that fermentation process, that kind of is interrupted, basically. So a lot of the negative aspects that people have reactions to gluten in particular are mitigated by that fermentation. So if it's 100% celiac, we hesitate to recommend, even though, you know, there's good understanding that they might even benefit as well. If it's just gluten sensitive or intolerant, or, you know, one of those, we've had folks that have had no issues, and in fact positive signs with that. So thank you.
Awesome. Other questions? Yeah, Mara.
Hi, this is for the doctor. Lately I've heard about where you eat in a short amount of time. Do you know what I'm talking about? What do you think of that?
Intermittent fasting.
That's it, yeah.
Yes, and that has shown in clinical studies to be beneficial for not gut health alone, but also for mental health. So it's basically what we're talking about is intermittent fasting, and it's choosing 8 hours of your day with only that time to eat solid food. Outside of these 8 hours, you can have, you can drink, not alcohol, drink, regular drink, coffee or water, but just outside of these 8 hours. So usually I recommend to start at noon and stop at 8. And between 12 and 8 o'clock, you can eat whatever you want. There's no specifics or restrictions. And outside of these hours, no food, just liquid.
Is that every day?
Every day, that's it. And studies have shown that it can make you age better. So you will age healthier if you do this intermittent fasting. Now there's different ways too, where people choose maybe the weekend to fast, and then but that's the whole day, the whole 24 hours and 24 hours, just liquid with no solids.
So you all kind of touched on this to an extent, but like our 21st century lifestyle is not very conducive to good gut health. And so there's a number of things that we do on a daily basis, whether it be the foods that we eat, how much we're sitting, the stress levels that people are experiencing, which you all kind of talked about. So in how the industry has responded is we see so many different things now that people can purchase to improve their gut health. They can get their microbiome mapped and see all those little critters that are living inside of their bodies, or tons of different products support gut health. So what are your different perspectives on folks that are trying to improve their gut health? What are things that are actually worth the money, or things that are maybe just blowing smoke?
Well, one thing I forgot to mention in my talk was probiotics. Those kind of refer to the naturally occurring bacteria in your gut, and you know, you can buy probiotics to add to that colony. But our approach has been, instead of trying to give your body more probiotics, which might not necessarily make it through the digestive acids, or if they do, they may not stay long since they're not native to your microbial population. We're trying to take prebiotics and feeding the good gut probiotic bacteria that's already in your system, which is a lot more efficient than trying to give yourself more probiotics that might not stay too long.
Good point. So the probiotics are those live active cultures. That's what you get in a yogurt. Prebiotics, the fibers that feed the bacteria.
Exactly.
So throughout our development, we develop our bacteria. Microbiota is the bacteria. Microbiome is the genes that are responsible for this microbiota. Through development, so even it starts when we are born. So when we do a C-section instead of vaginal, we lose the vaginal bacteria, and that can put infants at risk for more infections and more problems, and even mental health and mental issues down the road. So it starts even before you are born. Then a lot of factors can play a role in developing these bacteria inside our body. Socioeconomics, geography. So yes, there is an American Gut Project where you can send your stool sample and they can send you back the results. But this is specific for here. This is specific for the United States of America. Bacteria in Europe might be completely different than what we have here. Even food, if they are local, they may be different from the one imported. So even when we eat vegetables or we eat fruits that are imported from somewhere else, they may have different kind of health benefits than the one locally grown. There's another entity also that is specific with vegetables called endophytes. So even our vegetables have bacteria. And that's why diet is always better, the fiber from the diet is always better than the fiber supplement, than Metamucil or Counsel. So that's why I usually recommend more the vegetables, the real vegetables, because they also contain bacteria. Spinach has 800 species of bacteria in it, just spinach, and so forth. So that can influence too. And of course the use of antibiotics. So every time we have a sniff, we immediately go into antibiotics to start the antibiotics and try to control the symptoms. Using the antibiotics is gonna make a difference in our bacteria. Using hand lotion, everything is bacteriostatic or bactericide. We consider bacteria or microbe as killers, but they're not. Some of them are helpful. They lives in us symbiotically. We need them to survive, and they need us to survive. So a germ, usually a smart germ, is usually the one that doesn't cause disease, that doesn't kill you. That's the smart germ, and we have a lot of them. And the importance of probiotics is that it creates this diversity of population in our body, in our gut. And that's the key to keep balance and prevent diseases, diversity.
I could hear him talk all day. I just want to touch quickly on the idea of supplementation and use of products. I teach a lot about trying to simplify the healing journey, and because we tend to overcomplicate it. And a lot of times with most of us are over supplementing. We read about, oh, this supplement is good for this. Well, I want that. Like, oh, that'll make my hair better. I want that. And so we just keep adding and adding to these supplements, and then not improving our actual diet whatsoever. We just keep going into that, like, take a pill for everything mentality. And so I just want to my advice would be to work with a professional in whatever you're trying to heal, and it's worth the time and money actually to get a unique regimen for yourself that you actually need, instead of just trying to guesswork and spending a ton of money on these supplements that may or may not be for you. And you're probably healthier than you think you are. It's more of changing the actual lifestyle stuff, the stuff we don't actually want to change. So that's my 2 cents about that one.
I loved how you said we're shitting all over ourselves.
I'm just going to add it's supplement, which means that it supplements something. So it's not the main route. You need to eat healthy. You need to get your belly rubbed. And you need to take supplements, because some of those supplements will help our body too.
Love it. Miss Megan.
Thank you. Love the pun, by the way. So as a person who promotes and sells a product that goes through a fermentation process to become what it is, but is also filled with that huge microbiome of mold and bacteria that often gets a bad rap for maybe being full of fat or things like that. How do you feel about promoting foods that go through that fermentation process to promote healthy guts, if that makes sense? A lot of people don't know that a lot of our favorite things we eat have to go through that fermentation process of mold and driven bacteria so we can enjoy it.
Right. Yeah. I think things like sauerkraut and kimchi, I've heard, is great for that. I think anytime you can, that fermentation kind of helps those, it targets those microbes that are in your digestive system, so they're getting kind of the most out of your food. So rather than trying to break down, you know, a big steak or whatever, which is tasty and great, but you know, if you're giving them exactly what they're looking for, then they kind of can better serve the rest of your body and get a little better output out of that. So those are great foods to add to it as well. Yes.
I'm going to just. Go ahead. The bacteria needs fermentation. This is how they survive. This is how they multiply. It's through fermentation. And whatever you can give them, fermented food, kimchi, kombucha, tempeh, yogurt, all these foods are healthier for the bacteria, and it allows them to secrete those short fatty chain acid that can help the metabolism and help the function of all our organs. So yes, I know it's mold, but it's good.
It's good.
Try it.
And I'll also just add, because I think yours is a cheese-driven question, if I'm
Nothing
picking
beats
up.
blue cheese.
But I know, so I'm a dietitian, and we talk a lot about that cheese is an awesome accompaniment to those super nutritious foods to make them something that might be more palatable for someone who's not interested in eating a whole bunch of broccoli. That some really delicious cheese in combination with that might make it way better and way more enjoyable. So, a couple more questions. Ray?
Yes. A lot of postmenopausal women have osteoporosis, and they really push Prolia or Reclast, and yet my reading on that is that really plays havoc with the gut and the immune system. And I wondered if you would be willing to address that at all.
Yes, there's always an indication for medication at some point. We cannot dismiss drugs and medication completely. They have helped us to survive, and they helped us to increase our life expectancy compared to all times. So there's always a role, but it's individualized. Now the microbiota, some studies recently have shown that it can be beneficial to create this homeostasis, calcium homeostasis in the bone, and restore our bone density. So it might help using probiotics, or help to improve our bacteria to help our bone density. But at some point, maybe you're gonna need Reclast, maybe you're gonna need Prolia, maybe you're gonna need some of these support, medical support, depending on each case. But definitely the bacteria can help.
One more question. Yeah, Mike.
Well, I have two questions. One for Randy. I'd like her to explain why abdominal massage is helpful. And for the doctor, I'm going to the supplement things. When you go to the health food store and you buy the probiotics in the bottle, you know, after you've eaten your broccoli and your spinach, you can get those with like 3 million and 90,000 billion. You know, what is the right? What should you be looking for a good probiotic supplement if you're going to take one?
Fabulous questions.
Thanks, Mom. Well, the gist of why abdominal massage is beneficial is just purely speaking from a massage perspective. You know, a lot of times we just, have a therapist dig into our back or our neck, and we think that that's what we got to do, and we're totally neglecting, like what I showed you on the slides, these huge movers that are stabilizing us constantly. They're crunched down constantly, and a lot of therapists, I'm on a mission to change that, but they're uncomfortable working this area. They're uncomfortable with their own abdomen, so then they're uncomfortable with everyone else's abdomen, and it's just this mess. And so I've had the Arvigo training, which deals with more of aligning the organs. But before that, I was doing a lot of trigger point work with the abdomen, and there are I've had a client that had really severe low back and hip pain. He had surgery, did all this, went to all these doctors, and no one ever addressed his abdominal muscles. And so that's where I started, and then he started to finally feel relief. And so if you picture your body like a sailboat, you know, if you pull on one string, then the opposite side's gonna be influenced and vice versa. And so with our muscles, if we're crouched like this all the time and this area is tight and never getting nurtured, then the back is constantly gonna be fighting that. So just purely muscularly, we have to be tending to these muscles in some way. And yoga helps with that, exercise helps with that, but just like we need everything else massaged, then we need these muscles massaged. And then on my card out there, there's a lot of bullet points of what the abdominal, the Arvigo technique helps with, but that does deal with more of making sure our organs are in alignment. A lot of people, I have clients that send me texts that are like, I had the best poop ever, like, you know, and I'm just like, woohoo!
I was wondering how long it was going to take, but we actually said poop.
I had
Like,
to do
you made
it.
it almost hilarious.
I did it. I'll take that one for the team. I'll bring it up. But like it just, and they've had these issues forever, but really it just needed help, like physically needed help to move along. And so it's just turned into something that I keep doing more and more and staying at that area of the body more and more because it addresses issues all over the place. So there's that.
And this is also related to the nervous system. So when we stimulate our gut, we are stimulating sensory nerves. And those sensory nerves are going to go to the brain. And from the brain, they're going to go down into the enteric nervous system. And that can create also improvement of the motility and contractions and our bodily function. So these techniques are very important, and they are part of the cognitive behavioral therapy. So the breathing that she just mentioned is the diaphragmatic breathing, learning how to breathe from your abdomen instead of your chest. And that is something that I use on a regular basis in patients with chronic nausea, vomiting, belching, and upper GI symptoms. So that's how they work. I think this is through this amazing nerves network in our gut that we didn't really think about it much. This is all new. This is when I first started medical school, the brain was not really involved in GI issues, and we didn't think about the brain as playing a role in the GI tract. But now studies have shown that it may be the major reason for the chronicity of our symptoms. We are people of habits, so once we have a disease or once we have symptoms, the symptoms may come back to us just with habits, because we anticipate that if we're going to eat this thing, it's going to happen. And that's just create the cycle. And we want to try to break it. And the massage that we're talking about, this stimulation may help to break this cycle. For the probiotic, there's plenty. And there is expensive and there is cheap. The key with probiotic is diversity. As I mentioned, we want to try to have as many population of bacteria as possible. We don't have one bacteria that's better than the other, or a certain number that's better than the other. No matter the number is, it's still a very low fraction of what we have, but it's just this little change in the balance may make a difference. So usually what we recommend to have at least 3 different population of bacteria. The lactobacillus is important, the bifidobacterium is important, and those can help the GI tract, the gut, but also they can help the mental behavior. On average, at least 10 billion population-wise, but I know that there's 900 billions and there's 100 billions. But studies haven't really shown that if these are going to be better than the others or not. What I would recommend is to try to cycle your probiotics. So every few months, try to change to something different and see what happens. And probiotic supplement is not going to be a quick fix. It's not a treatment. It's a journey. It's a long term. and how it's make you feel. You may not feel it immediately, and it may take months and years before you see the advantage.
All right, we are out of time, but we do have one quick final question for all of our speakers. What is a final takeaway that you would give for everyone in the audience, or what is something that our group of 80 plus people here can do to support the work that you all are doing? You can answer either one.
I think most of the things that I teach and offer is just to get you to notice yourself and to do things in your life that allow you to check in instead of check out. Because when you do that, you can start to create the medicine that you actually need and not what's constantly being bombarded at you or being confused. You don't have to feel confused about your healing journey, and there's many people in our community that can support you in that. So if you can take on some practices, they can be simple, quick practices. In fact, those are the best kind. To take a moment to notice how you're doing, what you're needing, to breathe more intentionally, to sit and work more intentionally. That is the foundation to any other time and money investment that you're going to do. When you shift some parts of your lifestyle and you start to honor yourself, that's when you can really, I guess, get the most bang for your buck when you try to dig into some of these other more advanced treatments. So it's always my mission. And then come in for a belly rub. I'd love to rub your belly.
I did it. It was great.
And I do teach yoga. I have a yoga foundation series coming up starting on Tuesday, and there's still some room left for that. And that's a really fun basic of yoga series. And I teach a lot about breath work and lifestyle stuff. I do have a low back series coming up as well, so you can come in for those kinds of things. But wherever you find your healing, just really invest in it and make it a priority and acknowledge yourself regularly.
Be nice to your bacteria and basically try to feed them right. Fiber. Exercise as much as you can. Probiotic is not a bad idea. Prebiotic is not a bad idea. But make sure that your diet is healthy and focus on that as much as possible. Also, bacteria may be a cause of cancer, so it may trigger bad multiplication of our cells. So that's why it's also very important to be nice to your bacteria, not only for that. The incidence of colorectal cancer in young adults have increased dramatically the last 10 years. And we are attributing this partly on diet, and it could be related to the microbiome.
Well, one thing I have been doing for years that I didn't really, I never thought about it this way, but when I was going to NDSU, I was in the concert choir there, and, hey, thanks. And a big thing there was breathing, actually. That diaphragm breathing, not going, with the shoulders going up when you take a big deep breath, but it's here. So I never really, associated that with more than just for singing, but, who knew it had, other gut implications as well. And then one thing is they talk about competitive exclusion, where if you can create or have your gut have less room for pathogens because you're filling it with this better bacteria, and you're helping your bacteria grow better and flourish, they're leaving less room for the pathogens, or like on the stage we're sitting on, like for a bad roommate. So.
Oh, that's fun. Would you all please join me in thanking these fabulous